Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this April 2nd, 2009 school board meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Sean, do you mind leading us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll continue by reading our mission statement. The Newmarket School District is committed to the highest standards of quality education by creating a safe and successful learning community that embraces diversity and responds to the social, emotional, intellectual, and physical needs of every child. We are dedicated to fostering links to the broader community to ensure that every student develop lifelong skills, enabling them to be contributing and productive members of society. Thank you again, and welcome. This is the time in our program, if visitors had comments to make, they could do so. Hearing none, we'll move straight to minutes from the March 19th board meeting.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 19th school board meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? I've got a couple things, small corrections. Top of page 3, it ends, the first sentence there ends with, proceed with the purchase of the Infinite Campus programming. I think that should be just program. Middle of page 4, Chairperson Chase, no to communication is not forbidden. The policy explains that if that kind of communication does happen, I think it should read, the document becomes public by inclusion in the minutes. So after the insert document, it becomes public by inclusion. And strike the public document. I think that will add a little bit of clarity. Page 5, end of the second paragraph. He is in the process of determining setting dates for the tours. I think if we just say in the process of determining dates, strike setting, or the other way around, we just need one verb. And one was a question, the further down that page, the trip to Quebec City or Montreal of the Spanish club, is that a 2-week trip?
It's not. I'm not in the French club, so I'm not sure if their plans. The only 2-week trip that they usually do is every 4 years they go to France.
Right.
They have in the
Okay.
past gone to Quebec City or
Right.
Montreal. That car wash, the funds would go to future trips in general,
Okay.
not specific one.
Yeah, just for clarification, it is the French club, not the Spanish club.
Did I say Spanish?
You did.
That's,
You know what you meant.
it's already a long night. The page 6, the paragraph that starts with Chairperson Chase towards the top talks about a joint meeting with the town council set for Thursday, April 11th. Thursday is the 9th. And the 11th is, so and as I recall, that should be the 9th, is that right?
Yes.
And the last one, I don't know the answer to the question, but the middle of the next paragraph down, it talks about the Energy Committee and the looking into hydroelectric power from the Piscassic Dam and the McCallum Dam. I don't think that's how you spell McCallum, but I'm not sure what the correct spelling is. Someone who,
A-L-E-N. It's McCann.
Sue.
Hmm.
McAllen's been out of town for quite some time, but still, I think for searchability, it would be nice to have the spellings right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other,
Go back to page 4. At the bottom of the page, if the fire trucks is responding to any of the fire drills to see how they access the school property, should be complete, have it more defined.
Where's this, Chet?
Under check.
Right at the bottom of page 4,
Mm-hmm.
I think the sentence should be kind of more defined than it is. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
asked if the fire trucks respond to any of the fire drills to see how,
They access the school property would probably be more
okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question about that. Do we know if we did our, the fire?
Well, the principal's there this evening. I guess they can respond to that. Fire drills?
We have them, do you want me to respond to that?
Mm-hmm.
It just says you have to do 2 practice, one like a lockdown practice or something each year, and I just didn't know if those
Yeah,
had already
sure.
happened.
We aim for 10 every year, and I think we've done about 7 so far. And I think 3 of them so far have actually been unannounced by the fire department. They've just shown up and pulled it, which is great, because
Good.
that's more of a real
Mhm.
kind of situation. So,
Excellent.
and we also did a lockdown drill at the elementary school. So,
My daughter hasn't talked to us, so I guess it wasn't scary.
Okay.
Page 6. Last section on signing MS 22.
Mm-hmm.
Second sentence, strike "this needs to be done," so it just should say the bid process will move ahead for the roof project.
Okay.
It wasn't contingent upon that.
Mhm.
And the next sentence, I really didn't say that we were contracting with the Jordan Institute, I just mentioned them, so, I don't know if we want to just strike that. It was just a comment. I don't remember.
I'm not averse to striking that whole sentence.
Yeah, we could put, yeah, just take it right
Yeah,
out then? Okay.
Might as well strike it.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else have any comments? Okay. With those changes in mind, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you.
Note my abstention, as I was absent from the meeting.
Thanks, Forrest. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'll make a motion to approve the non-public meeting minutes from March 19th.
I'll second that.
Thank you again. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And one notable abstention.
And again, a noted abstention.
Okay. On to the program, which is a review and update of the district goals, and we have the administrative team well represented tonight. It's great to see you all present. Thank you. Mark, do you have some
I
thoughts
do.
in mind how to
Yes.
get us rolling here?
Well, let me begin by again restating that the A-team has recently convened to review the status of the goals in terms of fulfillment and the adjustment that may have needed to be made midpoint, along with a facilitator to bring focus and guidance to that process. So what I think we do tonight is actually just go down through the goal, the objective, and then I think we have individuals that can respond individually and maybe a couple at a time if we would step up to the mic so the audience at home can hear. It's more of a conversation than a formal program. So our first one, to establish higher expectations for learning, to provide optimum learning experiences for all students. We've been working on the K through 12 social studies curriculum, and in general, this is part of the district effort in both buildings to bring about all the fruition that we hope to, into fruition, the benefits of curriculum mapping. So I think Chris and Scott, you want to begin discussion on that? And if you both could step up, I think that's helpful.
As we look at these, we had a number of expectations for establishing another of goals for establishing higher expectations at the elementary school that really focused around implementing everyday math and the core reading program, which were put into place last year, which is why there's not a whole lot in this particular page. I have lots to say on other pages. But these primarily focus at the high school level, so I'm going to defer for this page to Chris.
Right now, one of the actions is to create a 6 through 12 social studies program that was aligned with state standards, and that is nearly completed. As you know, we have changed our process for a high school where 2 years ago, civics and economics was taught at the freshman level. That has changed to be more aligned with the state. Civics and economics next year will be taught at the junior level. U.S. history will be the 9th grade subject that will be taught in the social studies, along with Western Civ in your sophomore year, or Western Eastern geography, along with a couple of electives. So that's a little bit of a change to be more aligned with the state standards. We explored placement in world language, our AP AP classes in both French and Spanish. Right now we have the opportunity to take them online, so kids have taken that. They don't take it through the traditional classroom model. And again, it just comes down to numbers. Having 3 kids taking an AP French class is just not something that this district can do, but we have the opportunity through VHS for kids to take that, and also through some BYU courses that Tom works with them, through the monitoring of those teachers, both French and Spanish. The dropout rate, and this one's kind of been developed for us. As you know, SB 18 is going to be in place on July 1st, where now students will not be allowed to drop out of school until the age of 18. Chet Jablonski, Mark, myself, went to a conference with 7 area schools, high schools, the SST formation, to talk with extra adult ed and talk about opportunities that now we will be creating for kids that are 16, 17, 18, that traditionally would want to drop out, would be your at-risk students, and things that we would do to collaborate our funds to be able to help these kids. So it will be a lot of alternative learning plans that we'll develop through guidance along with SST and adult ed. And it also leads into some partnerships with the community towns such as Oyster River and Epping. So the dropout rate you should see drop dramatically because we've got to keep these kids that are traditionally at-risk kids in school to the age of 18. And now we'll have adult ed being able to support these kids at age 16, 17, 18.
In addition to SB 18, Chris, I was at a commissioners conference about a week ago. There's been some data that's being released on a preliminary basis, and last year, and that's what they've measured, last year data to the previous year, there is a reduction in that dropout rate. So something's working. Good.
With the dropout rate piece in mind, I remember reviewing these numbers in past years in school boards. The formula for which to calculate it is very prescriptive.
It is.
Where, given the fact that Newmarket did not have, if I get it wrong, let me know, if Newmarket not having an adult ed or any sort of alternative program, a student that stopped attending in Newmarket, and even if they were in some sort of alternative pathway to get a high school diploma through an adult program in Exeter, what have you, they would still count as a Newmarket dropout.
Exactly.
Does that change?
That does change.
That
We will still be able to count those students in our program if they're enrolled in an adult ed program.
Even
right
though
now,
it's in a different community.
It is. Yeah. Right now, we actually have a girl who's 17 years old that is enrolled in a GED program during the day. She's counted as a dropout, even though she's pursuing a GED during the day, during school hours at Dover, through the classes, still goes, but she's considered a dropout with us, even though we know where she's at, we support the program, we work to get her over there. That's how this bill will change. So we'll still be able to count her as one of our enrolled students, even though they're accessing adult ed classes, or whatever plan we put in place.
And there are students that are included in that dropout statistic in New Hampshire that are in college.
Yep.
But they're listed as dropouts.
So that's one of the things that's kind of been fixed, it sounds like.
That's correct.
within
Yeah,
the-
so that
And that
won't,
will
that
change.
won't count
That's all
against
gonna
us
change.
anymore, which is nice.
Yeah.
So we're accountable for 2 more years, but those kids that are dropping out and still enrolled in programs no longer count against our dropout numbers.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, the good news is that with no success in the program, the numbers still will look better. So
Correct.
we need to be mindful of that, because it's,
Correct.
since the accounting rules are gonna change, it's
Yeah.
going to,
Yeah,
The
it
base
should,
changes.
naturally, yeah.
Right.
That's right.
The monitoring and coordinating support services, I can't really speak to all of those. That's for other administrative team members that really investigate that. But I go into the Tier 1 colleges and offerings. I know it's a common question. The one good thing that has come out, our collaboration work with the school, with Oyster River. When I visited them and I met with their principal to talk about NEASC and the NEASC process and the classes they offer, we offer AP classes that they don't offer there, and vice versa. When you look at our class offerings compared to their class offerings, and we took, our books and looked at it, it's very similar in the class offerings that we're offering. So you consider a school, 10 minutes down the road, Oyster River, and we're offering a lot of the same AP or higher classes. We offer AP English, AP Calculus, AP Chemistry, AP US History, Physics, Probabilities and Stats, Trigonometry. These are all your higher level classes, your Tier 1 classes that colleges are looking for. And we are offering that. So, and in our investigation, yes, we're offering that, and through that discussion, that collaboration from the two, talking about possibilities of maybe some satellite classes where our kids that don't traditionally fit into maybe an AP French class might be able to take it teleconferenced through Oyster River and vice versa, because I believe right now they do not have maybe an AP US History, or they don't have one of the AP classes we don't have. So a kid might be from Oyster River might be able to teleconference and take a class through Newmarket. So it's very rich discussion right now, and the possibilities are pretty pleasing.
that's great to hear.
Yeah, and also, in one of the many appearances that Tom Pavlidis has made before the board this year, you presented some good statistics and gave us a good overview of what preparation, what tracking is taking place, and now we have another tracking tool that we're going to be able to use this coming year with the Infinite Campus Student Information System to quantify success in meeting these expectations.
Go ahead, please.
First, Cliff, I thought that was a great question about the change in the bill and the dropout rate, because that was a concern, and it gives credit to the people who have worked hard to track those students and keep them involved, because I know a lot of effort goes into those individual students. I have a quick question. Under this goal, I know that the elementary school's been working on math and reading programs, and I know you've been doing a lot with the NEASC and the curriculum mapping, but I recall going to a meeting, I think it was last year, where science curriculum was being discussed because there were changes in the type of, I guess, topics you could cover. Like if you lived near the ocean, you were allowed to study the ocean, but if you live in the Midwest, you're not allowed to study. So there was supposed to be some realigning of science.
Pat?
I think Pat probably could answer that, but I just wondering what efforts were going on with science.
You got this, Pat?
That's such the scientist here. Yes, last year we worked on science maps at the elementary school exclusively. We've continued that process this year with bringing in an outside speaker who focused with the staff early in January, I want to say, on conducting a fine-tuning of their maps, looking at the critical inquiry part of their work. She's returning actually in May to work with them again. What we were looking for this time was overlap. If someone's teaching, the same unit, how can we either make it look like we're developing more depth at each of those levels? They also took apart the kneecap test that the fourth graders took, and everybody got a chance to look at it and took a piece of the puzzle back home and said, we can all help to make this better for fourth graders. They shouldn't shoulder the load. So we are definitely making progress with that part of the science mapping. At the junior, senior high school, they've already completed their science maps, and I say completed, they're an ongoing process. I expect all of the teachers there to be able to, get in, change, adapt to what's going on.
And I guess my other question is, if I was a parent and I wanted to know what topics you were studying at different grade levels and different curriculum, is there some way that I could have access to knowing that, in second grade my daughter is going to be studying space and dinosaurs and ocean? Like, is there something like that?
The goal, once we have everyone's units done, would be to put it up on the internet, up on the website. But we don't want to put anything up that we're not firmly ready for, okay? But
And
yes.
this is part of the beauty of this accreditation process, in addition to expectations we have district-wide that you have. When we go through the accreditation process, especially at the high school level, and this is where it's often difficult to have those curriculum maps in place because of the vast array of offerings, there is an immense amount of pressure to make sure that these maps exist and that there is a tie to standards.
Just make a quick comment.
Sure.
if I may. I just want to make a comment that, just for your memory and for mine and ours, that the action step on the quote-unquote Tier 1 colleges is not as broadly stated as I believe it was intended to be. That came, my memory says that Chet sort of brought the question up last year when we were doing goals about, our kids going to top colleges. And that I had suggested that we take a look at, and the reason the word tier is there is because we talked about, for lack of better words, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 schools. And coming up with some mechanism of reporting out on our kids and where and into the world of work, into the military, as that fourth category or fifth even, that we come to a way to report out some of that so the community understands what's going on. Because if you take any individual child, the things that impact their post-secondary educational choices are so broad and diverse that simply saying you haven't had a child from Newmarket go to Harvard since when does not truly represent the achievement the kids are making. So in order to give the community some feedback, I almost envisioned, cutting all the biographical data off the top of a set of transcripts, and every college has different requirements. But, coming up with a generalized, here's your Ivy Leagues and your Tier 1s, and here's your, state universities, just for lack of better, and, your community colleges and these things. And do our kids generally meet the entrance requirements academically through course completion and their level of success? And putting together some kind of data that way, I think with a graduating class that averages between 75 to 90, depending on the year that we have. Maybe it's a master's project, but I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Just so once the formula's there.
2 weeks ago, when we were here, Tom Pavlidis did a nice job. He found a tracking software that is able to track every kid, where they go to college, the requirements that they needed to get in there. So he talked about that a little bit. So that is something that we're looking to purchase for next year, so we can answer that directly.
I think that's,
But we wanted to correlate, are we taking
Yeah.
classes stacked
good.
up around the area?
That
That
was
tracking piece, that's what
that
he
was too
found.
long
So
an explanation
he-
for the
he
fact
did
that the
well.
Tier 1 wasn't as broadly stated, but that.
Well, basically what you're looking for, regardless of whether a kid makes an application or not, based on the offerings, if someone chose to make an application to one of the tiers, would they be successful in their acceptance? So it's not necessarily tracking individuals and choices, but is there a choice?
And it gives the community some feedback and some reinforcement that we are preparing kids for a wide variety of opportunities. So
We'll get that.
Okay.
Could I offer one additional thought Mrs. Ballantyne reminded me of? The change in science, to address your question, is even at all the elementary levels now, there are different domains that we have to cover at every grade level. It's physical science, earth and space science, biological sciences, and also they really focus on the inquiry model. When we do the fourth grade assessment, the kids actually do an experiment, and then they get questioned for the kneecap science test on the results of the experiment. So it really, it builds that direct inquiry model, the scientific method, right into the elementary from the beginning. So
Okay.
Yep.
I have a question regarding the core competency piece. I guess I'm curious where we are in the development of those. My specific question is, I'm guessing we've hit the main subject areas pretty well, but what about consumer science, health, foreign language, technology, physical education? Are those all?
Yeah, physical education is complete. They went right on the physical education standards, so those are complete. Foreign language is complete. Consumer science, she was still working on it because she had a long-term illness last year. So those she's in the process of completing that. There was a couple in our business education program too, where we had another long-term illness and a brand new teacher this year, but she's done a great job of inputting that. Other than those two areas, everything else was complete. And if I'm misspeaking.
No, I think everyone's done. We're still working on, when you talk about competencies, part of the assessment for a
Assessment,
competency
yeah.
is developing rubrics, and a lot of them have them done, some don't. And as Chris addressed, those areas where we have brand-new teachers that competencies weren't totally complete, they've been doing curriculum mapping, competencies, and trying to remember what to teach, so everybody's getting up to speed, but, we've been able to help. But it's an ongoing process for them.
And the state will audit districts to check to see where we are with those core competencies. Now, there's a question if there's enough state personnel available to come out and perform those audits. But we're all on notice. A team may show up at any time, and you're going to have to produce them.
So maybe reflecting back on the earlier discussion about age 18, are there any students taking advantage of the opportunity to demonstrate competency in any area?
We have not had a student asked to do that at this time. One student thought about it through an external learning opportunity about doing the PE competencies, but when she looked at the amount of work, it's actually better to take the course than it is to go through the competencies, because there's 7 competencies that you have to go, and they based it on, this is a collaborative work through the Seacoast, Winnicott, Epping, Newmarket, Exeter, so they all put it in the national standards that they had to complete. She looked at it, she's a competitive dancer, and said, I'll just take the course. So that was the only chance that we had this year to discuss it, and when we presented what it was, she'd rather just take the course than do the competencies.
Interesting. Okay. Thanks.
Did you want to?
Yeah, we have best practice with regard to resources utilized with students and reading, and it's the program, grades 4 and 5.
Yes. As you know, we implemented Scott Forsman reading in grades K through 3 fully this year, no last year. Boy, they blend together. And one of the areas still to look at is how well our reading program at grades 4 and 5 matches the state GLEs, or grade level expectations. So as part of our school improvement team that was formed this year as a result of being a school in need of improvement, one of the subcommittees is a team of 4th and 5th grade teachers who are looking at the GLEs and what we do in the 4th and 5th grade to see where there are possible gaps. If the expectation is that all students read by grade 3, which it is, then it leads us to deeper things than decoding skills at grades 4 and 5. And so this year, as part of our school improvement grant, we brought in Joan Sedita and Becky DeSmith, trainers for a program that's being used not only in 4th and 5th grade, but also in the junior and I understand soon the senior high school, on specific skills for helping students learn reading comprehension. There's a partner program to that we would like to do next year that focuses on vocabulary development, and it could go right through, again, the upper elementary, middle school, and high school.
Right.
So we feel we're in a pretty good shape with that.
And a kudos to your building. The word is out about success. A neighboring district sent a team, SAU 15, Hooksett, sent a team to observe what's going on in our elementary school. So we're making good gains.
Yeah, they're looking at implementing Scott Forsman. They wanted to come and see and talk to our teachers, see their experience, and they got to visit classrooms. It happened to be the day that the PTA and NCEP were doing the teacher luncheon, so they had a banquet luncheon. Got to sit with the teachers.
Just another day in Newmarket.
I told them it's not the typical luncheon, but, enjoy it today. So, yes, they enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I'll talk a little about transitions, if I should move on. As you know, this is the fourth year that we will be doing a sixth grade academy for our fifth graders, where they had never envisioned moving from teacher to teacher. That was one of the big transition pieces for fifth graders. So we'll do that again this year. In addition, all of our fourth grade and fifth grade teachers are dividing duties for social studies and for science. So all of the students for 2 years are now trading classrooms, and they get those two subjects in those teachers' classrooms. So we think that's going to really help with the transition to multiple teachers at the junior high, which is one of the things we've always heard is a big change for students. They're not used to that. We will continue to have transition meetings between the fifth and sixth grade teams. Our guidance counselors at both buildings work closely together. There is going to be a parent night at the high school for parents of incoming fifth grade students. And also a grade 5 step-up day. That's been traditional, and that will continue. Our guidance counselor spoke to me the other day, and I shouldn't let the cat out of the bag, but she's working with the junior high counselor, and it's only in the beginning phases, but to try to develop a buddy system between those students currently in the junior high school and those who are going to be. And that kind of follows something that's already happening quite a bit, where Mrs. Winterbottom will arrange opportunities for high school and junior high students to help out in elementary classrooms. We think that our leaving fifth grade students knowing other students at that building is going to help a lot with them transitioning to that school. As I said, that's only in the beginning discussion phase, but she did mention it to me and seemed quite excited about it. In addition, we're beginning to see teachers, when they do their annual goals, to really focus on transition. I recently received an email from a sixth grade teacher who had goals specifically to work on fifth to sixth grade transition. So she wanted both Chris and I to review the goals and to give her some feedback. So under measures of success for that goal, we do talk about doing some more formal feedback from students. We get lots of anecdotal feedback. We are able to use the YRBS, which is the Youth Risk Behavior Survey information, and have talked about doing a follow-up with SurveyMonkey. That extra step was added only recently when the A team met with the consultant, but we see it as a powerful next step. So that's where we are with that. Okay?
And I know we have an eager group ready to respond to the next couple items, but we do have published personnel here in this district with three-tier intervention, RTI. And Elaine, are you out there?
I am.
All right. Could you give an overview
I'm going
of?
to have the principals stay because they're
They'll
really
stay.
doing a
Yes.
lot of things in the building. As you know, we've been using a three-tiered model for quite a while. So we're continually trying to improve skills, continually looking at it, continually looking at strengthening Tier 1, which would be the regular classroom level, providing a lot of professional development. And we've done that over the year. Actually, we started last year. At the end of the year, we had someone come in. We actually had a Saturday workshop where someone did a presentation on reading, and a number of teachers attended. I think we were able to pay them through some of the Title II monies that we
Good,
had.
good.
So I think that it's just ongoing, as they already mentioned, the 3 keys to success that they're doing at the elementary school and at the middle school. I mean, it's really creating a nice foundation to strengthen that Tier 1, and then the LA program, the Alt LA program that was put in at the middle school, created a nice Tier 2. Those students are getting 100 minutes of reading and language arts instruction, which Chris has been great in putting into place. And then those students are also able to get another class period, which creates a Tier 3. So I think we're doing a lot. progress monitoring all of those students and continually getting better at looking at the data. That seems to be an ongoing process for us. So they're just getting better and better and using data to improve instruction. If it's not working, what do we need to do? Working as a team, using a problem-solving model to look at other interventions or what's needed. So I think people are just doing a fantastic job with this in both buildings. And I'm sure the principals can add a little bit more detail.
Well, we've been fortunate, Lane, to have your expertise. Lane makes a number of presentations at the state level, and I know you've been doing some work for the Department of Education as well in this area, and has been a good mentor for principals and other staff, and I'm convinced we truly see the benefits of that implementation. Please.
I would just like to use the phrase data teams, because we've actually talked about that here quite a bit. And that's an important part of the RTI model, where the grade level teams meet periodically, look at all those assessments we get, make individualized decisions for students, and then implement that program and monitor its progress. So that's the only thing I would add, is that's what that's about.
At the high school, we just sent 3 staff members and myself went to an RTI model up in Portland, Maine, and it was a great foundation block to look at. We've established this year, we established a 9th grade team, but it looks at those difficult transitions. That's one of the most difficult transitions from kids from 8th to 9th grade. Even our building, they're only moving 50 feet down the hallway, but it's that concept of how a high school student looks different than a middle school student. So this year we started, due to some creative scheduling with Tom, we have teachers that basically teach the bulk of the freshmen that give up a planning period once a week on their own. This is their own time to look at these kids and study these kids and problems and patterns that we're seeing regarding to classes and failures and common problems for kids that age. With that RTI model, that I brought 2 members of this freshman team up to learn this, as well as a 7th grade teacher to talk about it more in the middle school. And what we looked at is that double block for language arts that Elaine talked about, that 100 minutes of direct language arts instruction co-taught by our reading specialist about looking to do some of that supplemental type of services in the high school. Therefore, a student that really struggles with English would have an English class that might be co-taught by a special educator, and then after that, their next block would be like a language arts tutorial with the special educator, where they're just going back on those concepts that they really struggle with. So again, another 15 minutes of direct instruction in reading, writing, and overall language arts. And then for some of those kids, even working with our reading specialists, even more. So really trying to get the RTI, the reading, the literacy, not just to jump from building to building, but be a philosophy K-12, and that's been a lot of what we've been talking about at the administrative level. So that's where we're at currently, and a lot of it's in the planning stage for next year.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Having been a 5th grade teacher, I know one of the things that the kids struggle with is the transition into textbooks and just trying to understand how to read them and use them.
Sure.
How does this Tier 3 model of instruction go into social studies or those other
little bit.
subjects?
Our middle school kids, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, 2 days a week, they have literacy in the content area, which does exactly that. So as a science teacher, I don't teach reading, I teach reading and science. I teach you how to become a better reader of the science tech books in the science curriculum. And they get that rotation once a quarter. But it's a common language, it's a common philosophy, and it's spoken from the 6th grade teacher to the 8th grade teacher. So they get that every single quarter in continuous. And that's a kid that's in any program. It is level grouped, but not a traditional level grouping. So every kid will get that. And teachers feel very comfortable about that because they're teaching their content. They're not teaching reading, but there's strategies that go along with that metacognition skill.
And they're different for each subject.
Correct.
Thank you.
Good. Then we have the advisories. Chris, you want to give an overview of the advisories?
Advisories are happening 6 through 12. Again, it's another area we need to tighten up, but this is the first full year that is fully implemented, 6 through 12. For me, I do have an advisory. I've had them since they've been sophomores when we first implemented it. It's my favorite time of the day. It gets me out of kind of my principal role, a time to sit down and talk with kids. Right now, I have seniors, so it's getting that 46 days. They remind me every day, this is the last 46 days you get to give us a hard time. But we enjoy it. A lot of good things going on. A lot of positive things, and again, there's other people that need some assistance, but it's positive for a lot of people, and that started 4 years ago with the 8th grade team, and is now 6 through 12, and having the NEASCA visitation, that is one area that a lot of schools really falter on, and she commended us on what we've got in place. Obviously there need improvement, but that would be one area under our leadership and organization that we will excel for that implementation.
Good, good.
Can I just ask, sorry. Could you just explain to the people watching who might
Sure.
not know what an advisory is, just
Sure.
since it is such a positive?
What it is, it's a 15-minute block every day after first period where students meet. The biggest group we have is about 10 to 12 students. What it is, the focus is to have a small group of students that you can directly connect with to work with issues. You're not a counselor, but you're working on common issues that kids have. And it could be a daily topic, it could be a weekly topic, a theme. For example, working with seniors at the beginning of this year, we worked a lot on where you're going to school. What do you need to have in place? What does college life look like? A lot of rich discussion about that. There was some talk about, some issues that happen in the news. Teen drunk driving. Just common things that kids struggle with that are looking for an adult model to talk about and discuss it and get some guidance. So it's just another way to reach these kids, to give them a positive alternative in the school and someone other than a parent or a teacher, someone that they can connect to and follow them through to kind of be a model for them throughout their high school or middle high school career.
Very good. Yep.
Sounds like well, from the beginning, it sounded like a great idea. I need to know, is Sean in your advisory group?
He is not. I lobbied to have him, but his advisor wouldn't give him up. So.
Come on, Sean.
But you did allude to some are struggling with that. Is there a plan in place to?
It gets back to a kind of a fundamental climate thing. That's too touchy-feely for me, and I asked them to come watch me because it's not touchy-feely. It's just connecting with kids. It's really just being an educator and listening to kid. It's that active listening role, which a lot of people have struggled with, and just give guidance and feedback. So my plan next year is I will give it up for a year to be able to go and sit in on advisories and help those people and support them and give them some support. We have a curriculum that has been developed. We do not enforce anybody to use it, but there is a curriculum if you do not feel comfortable. I don't use it since I was trained in it, 10 years ago, so it's just kind of, natural habit, and a lot of teachers are like that. We've given training every year. Our new teachers get a training in it as part of professional development. So there is guidance through how to do it, and some teachers pick it up and really enjoy it. Other people just need support. So that's the plan for next year of what we'll do.
It's tried and tested nationally. It is working. It's a very successful model.
Right.
I just don't want it to be a study hall by a different name.
Sure.
I guess
Yeah.
is my concern.
It's small groups, so does that mean that you pretty much need the entire staff
Yeah.
to have?
Yeah, pretty much.
And
yeah.
right now, is that the case? Everyone on
Correct.
staff is?
Yeah. There's a few staff members that don't because of other duties during that time. They can bounce in and meet with kids if they need to. But for the majority of the staff, they are assigned to an advisory. Yep.
So they're not only classroom teachers, but special educators?
Special educators, paraprofessionals, administrators. Yeah.
Great.
Very good. Well, we have our goal number 2, develop and maintain suitable systems of accountability and assessment. And there are, sure, a number of people who'd like to speak with this. We can start with Scott, and I know certainly Pat will have something to add, and Elaine, and some of these things we were discussing today, as a matter of fact, the performance pathways. It might mention as well, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., we'll be able to access the building status with results of where we're placed in terms of adequate yearly progress.
I'm going to talk briefly about performance pathways and how that's used, and also about the bottom bullet, triangulate data, that one. Performance pathways, if you're not familiar with that, is a program housed at the State Department of Education and run by them to collect and help us manipulate data on primarily 2 assessments, although they've begun to accept others. But the NECAP, the state testing, but also Northwest assessment, which we've used in grades 3 through 5 at my building, and I think it's 6 through 8 and 6 through 9. And so it is a somewhat cumbersome thing. We do print and use the data as one of our points of information for triangulation, as is written below, during the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade data team meetings. It's pretty static because it's only done once a year, and it takes 4 or 5 months to get uploaded. So, we did the assessment in October and got results in January, as I recall. So it does take some time to do that. The other assessments we use are somewhat livelier. Performance Pathways also has now begun to show data for AimsWeb, which we use, and I know Elaine is working right now, and maybe she'll talk about some of that, on finding other ways to use that system. But the triangulate data on the bottom, we have implemented a January test for our students in Northwest so that we have it. It used to be we got information in the fall, because this is instantaneous, and then we got it again in May. Well, although there are many valuable school days after the end of May, we find that a lot of teaching happens prior to May, and we'd like to know how the students are progressing in January. So it's good to have the data in the middle of the winter. So that has been implemented. Also, as part of the school improvement team at the plan at the elementary, we added grade 2 to this assessment for reading and math. So we have something prior to the high stakes grade 3 kneecap to kind of give us a standardized understanding of students' progress at grade 2. Okay?
Very good. Pat?
Let me talk to Performance Pathways. Performance Pathways is on the state website. It's a data collection agency that the state hopefully will maintain for us if the funding continues. It does allow us to not only look at, as Scott has said, one set of data. We can go back 2 or 3 years. For example, this current group of 7th and 8th graders has a great deal of data. We can go back and we can compare them year to year. We can look at how they did in reading, let's say, over a 3 or 4 year. We can look at what, which is really important for the teaching staff, what GLEs are we missing? It seems like we teach something and maybe we need to just go back and reconnect. Maybe we're just not hitting that. So that kind of data is important, not just for looking at how students do year to year, but here we have all this curriculum that we've written, and we assume it's matching standards. This kind of is a checkpoint to kind of make sure that it is. And then we can, and the other part of it is when you have this data in front of you, we now have the skills and collaborative techniques to talk about what that data means. It's what kind of instructional strategies do we have to change? Do we have to make additional? Do we have to add? Depth of knowledge? Are we just kind of skimming the top? How do we make ourselves dig down and ask better questions of students about what we're teaching? So it's actually a really great tool, and we're just finding more and more ways to use it. Elaine's going to start using it. More and more of her staff is able to put in information about specific skill areas that they're working on, assessments that they're working on, so that they have that data bank available to them. It's kind of like one-stop shopping when we want to go look for assessment, and it's a great tool.
Thank you, Pat. Elaine, is there anything you want to add to this?
I think that Pat described exactly what I'm doing.
Good.
And actually, I'll just say, I've just been experimenting with it a little bit because you can develop your own assessments. So I'm trying to learn the system to see if it can be more user-friendly so that we can make the information available to staff. But we use AimsWeb for fluency, but also teachers are working on vocabulary, they're working on comprehension. So what we found out is that you can add an intervention to Performance Pathways if you go into a specific student profile. So that's what I'm kind of playing with right now, and having some people pilot it for me to put in some of their data, so we'll let you know. But it does create a lovely chart, so I was really excited about that. So we're kind of working with it, but not real proficient in it yet. But
Thank you.
Anyway.
I have a question, Elaine.
Yes.
I have a question.
Jeff?
In regards to, you talked about the tiers and the levels beforehand. With this type of data, these students have the opportunity to step up
Yes, absolutely. And this gives them much more of an opportunity to step up because you have the data, you're setting a goal, and you're measuring their progress to that goal. So it gives them the opportunity to test out, to set new goals, and to keep accelerating their progress. So absolutely.
That's actually kind of the point of the tiers, is so that they will
It is,
step up.
right.
Right?
Yeah. Well, it's certainly instruction and informed instruction. The evolution of education's been interesting over the last 20 years. I think, or relying on some inherent passion that you want to convey is no longer what's taking place in the classroom. Yes, we have passionate staff that care about young people, but it is data that informs instruction, not just guesswork. And we're fortunate to have a staff that takes that to heart.
Can I ask a question? Sure. What happens with the three-tier instruction if you have a child who's maybe above average in reading at their grade level, and how do you help them to continue to challenge themselves without, I guess holding them back or pushing them too far over the next grade level so there's not a bigger gap for that teacher? How do you? It's kind of a complex question, but how do you make sure they're challenged too?
It's really the fourth tier, I guess. But actually, at the elementary school, as you know, we have an enrichment program and a dedicated full-time teacher who does just that. She has small group instruction for students who have exhibited unusual ability for their grade level, as well as teaching in every classroom every other week, because there's only one of her. So.
And that's Amy?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Do you keep data in terms of that step-up idea with the students, for individual students, in terms of percentages? Let's say in the third grade, we have 3% of the students had the opportunity and did step up and stuff like that? You keep data like that?
Well, we keep a date for the data team. Every time they meet, we do a record for that student of their achievement, that we have charts showing their growth for specific skills that they're working on. And yes, there is that.
So you could make it a whole class percentage if you wanted to.
Yes, we
The
could.
software we would get, we could probably introduce that into the data.
And it helps us to organize services, so by having the whole grade level teams meet, if we know there are students who need work on fluency in two neighboring classrooms, they might be in a group together because they're right next to each other and the schedule allows for that. So that kind of thing.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good. Another objective, and Chris, I know you've been working on this, been attending conferences as well, to conduct surveys to monitor student needs. And Tom, I'm sure you've had involvement here with the at-risk students. Can you give us an overview of some of the efforts there? Thank you, Tom.
Well, we recently took the Youth Risk Behavior Survey that's offered every other year by the state. And the state gives you two choices. You can either do a sampling of the high school, or you can be a fully participating high school. And we have been choosing to do the fully participating high school for, well, we did it this time and we missed it 2 years ago, and prior to that we did it as a fully participating high school. So we'll get that data in the early fall. That will give us a good grasp on a wide variety of student behaviors in school and in the community. We also were looking at getting Follow the Child. Is that going to occur, Pat?
We haven't finalized it yet, but I mean, we have.
We're hopeful?
To do that, yes, I
Yeah.
am. Because we could do it for staff as well.
A couple of years ago, we had enough. It must have been free by the state at that time.
Yes.
I can't think of the name, but it was part of the Follow the Child initiative at the state level, a school culture survey, and we gave that to everyone from grades 6 to 12, and we used that data, frankly, to inform us when we formed the advisory program. And we might have some funds left this year to purchase it again, and not only do a school culture, but do a staff culture and hopefully a parent culture survey. And that would be good because it's about 2 years ago since we last did that, so that'll give us good culture data on issues from achievement to bullying to feeling welcomed in the school, heroes, who do they see as heroes in their lives, etc. And that is one of the superintendent's at the state level initiatives to create a welcoming and responsive school environment for every single student. And the way to do that is to regularly evaluate where they are through surveys.
Mm-hmm. Very good, Tim.
Okay.
You had a comprehensive presentation with regards to the accreditation efforts, so I know there's no sense going over that. We forged ahead on that, and you know how important that is to us. Goal number 3, to cultivate a collaborative, cohesive community spirit of involvement. To strengthen the links between schools and community. One of the actions, to expand the use of Channel 13. That's still in progress. The town, I sit on the committee, is negotiating a successor contract with Comcast for cable access. Channel 13, possibly another channel. But I think the priority is not so much having that other channel right now. It's having equipment in our buildings that enable us to access these channels to promote productions at the building level that we don't have at present. So it's equipment, and probably about $35,000 worth of equipment we have requested. Whether that will surface is part of the negotiated agreement with the town, and it is with the town of Newmarket, not with the school district. We request inclusion in that agreement. Another effort to help with some of these programming and equipment needs is we're making a plea to the town to participate in that revenue stream. The revenue stream from Comcast flows to the town, not to the school district. But the funds are for public benefit. And we certainly have outlined the benefits of having some of that revenue stream in our buildings. So we continue to pursue that. The outreach by students. Chris, could you outline some of the efforts there? Service learning, those types of things.
Currently, every student's got to do a career type of opportunity as a credit for graduation, but we have a ton of students that now are involved in a job shadow or some type of work opportunity due to personality learning plans. We have a number of students that are meeting all their core classes that they need for graduation and are taking electives, but have met with us to go and either go to work early or receive credit for working, because again, it's a better learning environment for those students rather than being in our traditional walls and for the school days of 7:23 to 2:30. So we have a number of students this year that we've created shortened days so that they may go access work, get credit for work. A number of students that are leaving school to go do job shadows, coming back and doing some job-bedded classwork. A number of middle school students that are and high school students that are volunteering over the elementary school as a job-embedded type of class. Students working with the Newmarket Recreation Department for outreach. So there's a number of opportunities that Nancy Widdenbottom, Tom, and Ann Kane have really outreach to. And again, another example of the RTI model is now that Ann Kane is brought in to work with the University of New Hampshire for some of our special education students, where the possibility of a class where they're actually students from UNH become mentors to our students as they're working at the environment of UNH. So she's worked very closely with Chris O'Callahan on those efforts to get some of our special needs students in the high school the job training that they need when they're getting ready to leave high school. They'll have a mentor student at UNH that follows them through that job, works through questions in their jobs, works through their frustration. That's all been the collaboration of Chris O'Callahan and Ann Kane. So those are the opportunities that we have right now.
Chris Hull, is there anything you want to add to that? Do you want to elaborate on some of the efforts that are taking place?
I just think it's important people understand it's a new initiative. It's something that Deanna has put a lot of time and effort into. It's got tremendous prospects for a lot of youngsters in the district. UNH is involved in two areas. One is through the Department of Education, and as Chris said, what they'd like to do, working with Georgia Kearns, is to make it a credit requirement at UNH so that their students who are graduate and undergraduate are working with youngsters.
Good.
So that it's just not textbook learning, really actively participating. But we're triangulating over with the Institute of Disabilities as well, so that we have a little more truck with the university. Can we use this site as a job site or a potential job coaching initiative? So it's just building. When we tell people about it, they're all saying, "Oh, this is great. Can you get me a youngster a job in the music department?"
Right.
We're a long way away from that, but it's just an exciting initiative.
Sounds very good, Chris.
Just the last thing, Mark, on that is you'll probably be getting a presentation maybe in the summertime towards the end. We have a group right now in the high school that's looking at community service as a graduation requirement. So we've had a group
That's common in many districts,
It
isn't
is.
it?
And they've gone out and they've researched. They've gone to Noble. They've gone to a couple of the area schools and really researched. So they presented to the staff with some mixed results, but some, again, rich conversation about making that a graduation requirement. I think future board meeting, you'll hear more about that possibility.
Yeah, common requirement, 75 hours, Chris. I'm sure you've heard that as well. Very good.
Chris, in regards to UNH and the mentors and the special services for the kids, my understanding is that there are programs at UNH for these special services kids for college degrees. Have you people introduced these kids into some of those programs?
I don't think yet, Chris, for any, they haven't been introduced yet. Again, it's in the initial stages, and they're trying to develop the curriculum to make this a class where Newmarket students are actually become the I guess, protocol of how they would do it.
Thank you, Chris. We have a fourth goal.
Mark,
Yeah.
can I just make a comment that
Yeah, sure.
just having younger children and not being as exposed to what's going on in the high school until I got on the school board at junior high, it's very impressive the extra effort that the teachers seem to, the whole staff.
Yeah, it
I mean,
is.
all the way down to, integrating with the elementary school, just almost above and beyond, just being a teacher in the classroom. And I just wanted to just say I appreciate, hearing all about that, and good for the school and the town to have such a great staff.
That's wonderful. It's a great segue that leads into goal 4. In spite of challenges, as I harp on at every opportunity that I have.
Mark, before you go there, even though we have a great segue, I don't want to leave yet. There's tremendous things going on at all grade levels. I guess maybe this is just something I read recently, but I'm curious if there's any sort of program of outreach of elementary age students with the community. I've heard, programs of, they call them grand friends or something, kind of a email pen pal that might be a local senior, those sort of things. I'd love to hear something regarding that.
One of the things that was a focus for us, and we're always trying to find a way to get the student activities on Channel 13. We did manage to get our Christmas concert for the band and chorus, but I got to tell you the challenge in doing that, so you understand why.
A bit
it's
of weather?
tough. No, we had to get a permission slip from every parent of every band and chorus member, and if we had been unable to get one, that would have nixed the deal. But luckily, we got them all. So I thank Mr. Zawicki and Mrs. Trick for doing that. But it's very, it's an important issue, because if somebody does not want their child publicized, that's important. One thing that we're doing that I think is just a very exciting connection with the larger world, Mrs. Stowe, who is our art teacher, has learned from a colleague about this site called Artsonia, and it has on the website nearly 5 million student artworks posted from 30,000 teachers across the country. And she will, of course, be getting parent permission for students to participate. But what it does is it gives a venue for students to have their art projects on a site, and parents can go and they can actually buy products with the art things on it. It's pretty neat. But it becomes an electronic portfolio for students to have their artwork saved and posted. Our students participate in a lot of fundraisers connecting with a larger community. For example, the American Heart Association, the Toy Drive, the Exeter Children's Fund. This year, our students sent, at the request of Mrs. Rosa, sent Christmas cards to active duty soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan at Christmas time, which for me was a very important thing for the students to do. Our student council brought forward the idea of recycling, which is a program that began last year because of their knowledge of the world's needs at large. We have exhibition teams. The Hot Shots jump rope team goes to schools all over New England to promote that. We had students in the first Lego League robotics competition, so they're competing. Cross country is interscholastic, so they get to see kids from other schools at their age group. What you're hearing, I'm sure, is that a lot of this is adults taking students. That's appropriate for elementary. So it feels a little bit different, but there is a huge amount of exposure of our students to the community at large around them and ways that they can interact. So the primary service thing that they've done this year is the fundraisers I've mentioned and sending the cards to all of those active duty soldiers. So.
Very good.
Thank you. And my last comment is something we kind of just skipped over, which is with regard to the public library.
Yep.
Which is, I know we've struggled with this on these goals for years. Do we have any action items on that or plans in that regard?
I don't think other than what Yvette Reed outlined in her presentation a couple months ago, there's collaboration. Is there an opportunity for further partnerships? Yes, definitely. But at least from her presentation and statistics that she produced, there is collaboration taking place.
Okay.
And also, I know I'm making it a personal goal of mine to get that link there, whether it be through getting kids library cards or somehow getting involved in some kind of a grant where we can get the kids in and maybe they can paint the kids' room or fix it up a little bit so that it seems more.
More theirs.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that I have kind of set my mind on in the next few years.
Very good.
Okay, now that I've ruined your segue.
You have not. Yeah, you know, I'm going to hold on to this bone no matter what here. So, Jill, you make a very good point. And, you know, and I try to express this to staff at every opportunity. We're very fortunate here in Newmarket to have the level of dedication and expertise in our buildings that we do. But there are challenges, especially in the senior high school, in terms of facilities that inhibit, not prevent, but certainly can be a drag on all that we hope to do for children. Now, one of the goals is to cultivate and enhance the development of resources to support education of children. Objective number one, to ensure all safety and security requirements, to work with the fire department, the police department. Fire department's been very good. You know, certainly we've had a wonderful effort to work with the buildings by the fire department and the police department. I see police officers in the building. The chief of police speaks with me on a regular basis, offers assistance, advice, and development of programs that we'll eventually bring to the board. Another important objective is adequate facilities. We know there is an issue about classroom facilities, size, some deterioration of buildings, classroom buildings. Certainly, you are aware, I've talked about this, air circulation, especially in the art room, some of the issues there. And we do have a committee, Chet, Jill, around that committee, to come up with a plan, and it is our responsibility to come up with a plan collectively and ultimately through the board that will be presented to the public to provide a solution. We talk with other districts. This is the tour of facilities that we're planning in neighboring districts. Neighboring superintendents have been in. Josh has been on a tour with us as well, to bring to the fore what some of those challenges are. We do have a tour scheduled with the town council as well. So it is critical that we continue with this goal and continue to try to fulfill this goal. And certainly I know the importance of that to all of you. We do not. We're trying one of the objectives as well, to provide suitable space for community recreation, adult educational needs, to continue our efforts to bring school facilities in line with 21st century standards. When was that building put up? 1924? Is that what it says out in front? Somewhere around there, 24, 27. And, you know, we do have a lot of challenges in terms of coming in alignment with modern day standards and expectations for a learning environment. We're trying, one example is what we've been pursuing with our proposed easement securement for a playing field, a laboratory behind the elementary school. We were before the planning board last week, and we continue with our efforts to secure an easement, so we have potentially down the road at no additional cost to the citizenry here in Newmarket, maybe a soccer field, a laboratory for some science experiments. There was some concern, and you know, certainly we talked about how we would use that land and what some of that science activity would be, and we will continue to pursue that as well. To cultivate and enhance the development of resources to support the education of children, and here one of the objectives, the objective, is to ensure the school district has qualified personnel to meet educational, administrative, and facility needs. And I'm proud to say that there's been a great effort in securing qualified, certified individuals and monitoring highly qualified teacher status. That's a requirement under state and federal legislation, No Child Left Behind legislation. Principals, can you give a quick overview of that? Chris, you want to start out with HQT efforts and some of the things that we talk about during interviews and the monitoring that takes place?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're trying to find the most experienced, highly qualified in that content area certification, or those students or those teachers that are certifiable due to not going through the traditional teacher program, your alternative 4, alternative 5, some of the critical shortage areas. So that's always a process in our interview process. Are you certified, or are you certifiable? In the case of the business math position, you know, it's a very difficult position to fill, not a great pool of certified business math teachers. We had someone that interviewed for a math position, certified in math. I said, you know what, what you're talking about, you're perfect for a business math, business education type of class. Went back, got a certification, and has done a fantastic job as a beginning year teacher. So we're always trying to pull that through the interview questions. What strengths do they have, and the needs that we can fit in our school? But our overall you know, question is, are they highly qualified? Are they certified in that content area that they're teaching with their kids? Part of what we're looking to with our special education teachers now is not just to be certified in special ed, but also in a content area so that they can teach and teach alone without having to co-teach in other areas as well. Math, reading, language arts, English, those are areas that we're looking at as well. So it's kind of an overview, a quick overview of what we look at, but that's kind of the process of what we go through, and every school goes through.
Mm-hmm. Good. Scott, anything you want to add to that?
Only that the process is a little bit different at the elementary, because the general certification we look for is not in math, science, social studies, or science, but is elementary education. So that enables the teacher to teach any of those subject areas at that level. Right. So, and we're in great shape with this.
Scott, on your training programs that you had for the everyday math, is that pretty well complete?
Yes, this is the second year that we've been K through 5. However, we do have periodic offerings through the Professional Development Committee to, explore topics, review those kinds of things with teachers. But nobody is brand new to everyday math.
So the teachers have an ongoing seminars or workshops or visits in terms of that, what I mean by ongoing, I mean to upgrade that everyday math.
Well, once it's been implemented and used for a number of years, it's a less critical need, I guess is what I'd say, than reading, where we were a school in need of improvement. But we have periodic, I wouldn't say ongoing, but periodic discussions about math still.
So the teachers see some concepts within that program that they can better themselves and also the students?
Yes.
You can visualize and see that yourself?
Right, yeah. Actually, the teachers have talked quite a bit about, everyday math is really broad. They like to see more focus on computation skills. And some of our teachers a number actually, have been attending workshops this year at Ceresc in Bedford with Mahesh Sharma, who is a highly regarded mathematician and pedagogue. So they've been doing that this year. Okay?
Now, Pat, Debbie, I don't want to exclude you. Is there anything you want to add to this?
I'm going to briefly add for Chet's question. Now that we're all looking at everyday math for the last 2 years, we have noticed, as Scott said, areas that we need to either strengthen or kind of modify based on the state standards, and that's where all that data comes into play. We have staff that's used everyday math now 4 or 5 years, and they feel very comfortable working with other staff members on looking at assessments, looking how they're teaching. Do we need to spend more time? What are the training needs? So I think the staff has come together really nicely in interpreting not only the data that we get in math, but we're just starting to make that turn in the road now that we all are using everyday math. What do we supplement if we need to? What do we change? And what do we change for our own instructional methods now? Getting that toolbox out and making sure we have everything in there to meet everybody's needs.
Very good. Very good.
To get back to the highly qualified teachers and the law that
Yep.
that people need to be highly qualified. When I first started on the school board, it was new, and we were working toward making sure everyone was considered a highly qualified. So at this point, is our entire staff highly qualified?
No.
Okay. So, and what is the deadline?
Well, there really isn't a deadline.
Oh, there isn't?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's our goal to have 100%. But when we bring someone in under possibly a provisional conditional certification, they're working towards HQT status. So there's not a sanction for that, but there's a goal. Now, probably at the elementary school, everyone's 100% highly qualified, and it's just a couple new staff members that we work with and develop at the high school. And it is. Now, and there's an irony in this. It is a part of federal legislation. When you exit an undergraduate program, you have a certificate. And now, undergraduate programs in their curriculum enable you to qualify for this HQT status, having never set foot in a classroom as a paid employee of a school district. So all it is a designation. And I don't underestimate the importance of having had that content. It attests to a content base that you possess, either measured by credit hours or by successful completion of a praxis examination. But in reality, there might be some correlation, but there is no positive identification in terms of cause and effect to your ability to teach anybody anything when you first start in the classroom. As we all know, it takes 5 years to learn that's where you begin to be effective as a teacher. And not to diminish what we do, but I think you come into full blossom by the 5th year. And there's a lot of mentoring, a lot of coaching that takes place along the way. It's not necessarily on that HQT piece of paper that you're handed when you graduate from college. It's an educator down here for us. I think you would attest to that as well. But it is something. It's one of the outward benchmarks that we have to contend with, and I'm glad we do, because it does ensure at least a foundation of content. I know, Chet, you've talked about it. Years ago, when you were hiring math teachers, a number of them came to you with simply a background in education courses and not having had math content. Well, the feds say you can't do that anymore, and rightfully so.
Oh, that's changed.
Yep. One of the things, too, we talk about continue to foster regional opportunities, and I'm proud to say we have been with Epping, with Oyster River. We're exploring with Exeter some opportunities as well. So there's a good spirit of cooperation among what they call the southeastern school districts. There's a really a great willingness to share resources, knowledge, and it's one of the better spirits of cooperation that I've witnessed. Jen?
Yeah, and I'd like to say also that Mr. LaRouche has stepped forward in talking to these superintendents and school board members in these schools, and he's looking for other ways, alternative ways for our children to gain more. He's always looking for what the students can increase in their knowledge.
Well, it truly is in New Hampshire, and it has to be a collective effort of all. The parochialism of one school district pitted against another just doesn't work. We're all in this together, and we need everybody's input to help us.
Absolutely.
Yep, thank you. Now, one other item in here, another perchance conversation that we've been having, we had today. As a matter of fact, it's on our next A-team agenda, and that has to do with paraprofessionals and responsibilities. And there is a need for clarification of expectations in terms of job duties and performance benchmarks for paraprofessionals. You've been very generous in supporting the paraprofessionals that we have in this district, and they certainly are instrumental in helping deliver an immense amount of challenge and effort that we have to contend with some of our IDEA needs. But that is an area that is front and center, not forgotten. It's a priority, and I think it's very helpful for paraprofessionals as well. They need to know collectively and individually what's expected of them. How do we measure their performance? And I know Sue was a part of that conversation. Do you want to add a little to that, Sue?
Pretty well summed it up.
Okay. Okay. Elaine, anything you want to add to that?
You did a great job.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I knew I'd be in trouble if you ladies were displeased with what I said. Goal 4, to cultivate and enhance the development of resources to support the education of children. Well, here we go again. The objective under Goal 4, to ensure that all staff have access to opportunities for professional growth, and we have been involved in numerous professional activities for both teaching staff, paraprofessionals, and Pat, you want to outline some of the efforts there that we have undertaken this school year?
Starting in the fall, all the teachers have goals that they have to write and sit down and discuss with an administrator. In addition to those goals, we talk about professional development within the district at the Professional Development Planning Committee, which Chet is a member of, and we talk about how we can effectively use the funding that we have, kind of bang for the buck, to get as much out there as we can. We've had a lot of professional development at the elementary school. Fortunately, we're able to do a lot of job embedded, which means we can have substitutes come in and do mini workshops during the day, which is really beneficial. It's a little harder with the high school and middle school schedule, but we're going to experiment with it this week a bit. as Elaine and Chris and Scott have all said, we've had Joan Sedita's program start, and they're coming back to do the middle and high school people this week. We've had science people come in this year, and they will come back. We've had staff give their own workshops in technology. They began last summer. It is ongoing this month. We have a book group going on at the high school that's working on professional learning communities, just as everyone is within the district. They've formed their own book group, and we sit down with a study guide, and we're going forth with that. We've had all kinds of training for our specialists who need instruction. We're still working on the technology integration part, but it's coming along. People are making progress. And even the admin staff's going to get us a crack at it next Tuesday at their meeting in terms of a little more development in technology training. So I think we've done a really wonderful job of getting as much out there as we can. Would I like to do more? Yes, I'd always like to be able to have more training and more money to do that. But in addition to the training that Professional Development Committee provides during early release days or after school or during just a planning time, teachers have the opportunity to use the money that's provided contractually for them to go out and go to workshops, and we ask them to come back and share that information. You know, what did you learn? How could we use it? Because if we only send 2 or 3, but it's something really good that we could all use before we, invest a little money, we kind of want to see what the payback is and what can it do for us, kind of pay it forward a little. So I think we've done a great job of kind of working a little bit harder on very focused professional development on what our goals were within the district.
Very good. Our last expressed goal, goal number 5, to encourage diversity of voice within the leadership in order to effectively communicate and emerge with a unity of purpose. And this is an ongoing effort, always room for improvement, suggestion, reflection. To sustain the plan, this is objective number 1, for managing, improving communication with the community. Ongoing work with the town, police, fire, public works. We discussed some of this earlier tonight. I think we're doing a solid job here. And again, always room for improvement in that area. Monthly meetings with the town manager. Well, we've been striving for semi-monthly meetings. And Ed Winowski has been very open. Certainly, he has not been reluctant to partner with us where it's possible. And I really appreciate his openness and willingness to have discussions with me. Increased use of email. Well, we've had some challenges with email this year, but I am pleased with the efforts that we all undertake with use of the email with the community. We all, and we talk about it, make it a conscious effort to respond to our email, the telephone calls, and not leave the building with a pile of unanswered calls and emails. We do continuously talk about that, and we are employees of the public, and we feel obligated to communicate with the public, and we take that seriously. Again, we try to do always more in this effort, or in this area, but celebrate and acknowledge student community outreach success. Our best ambassador are our students and their successes. So every opportunity that we have to speak to the press, the outside groups, with regard to student achievement, we strive to do so. Our last objective under this goal, to provide information to citizens regarding school matters, budgets, facilities, curriculum. Coming in to New Hampshire and having never worked with a elected budget committee that worked hand in hand with the school board, I was very impressed with the spirit of cooperation, education that took place. I think you have a great foundation here in this town and a lot of support. And I believe the Budget Committee acknowledged that as well, how happy they were to work with the board and the administrative team. Evidence, and we've talked about that, is the successful passage of our warrant articles. And I want to thank the community again for that support. Articles in newspaper. Well, we have a reporter here tonight, Josh, who has been very supportive and is always willing to seek information from me if there's a need, and I appreciate that. So thank you for your efforts as well. Actions, we hope for passage of a budget and related warrant articles. Again, we were successful. Some of the parents' nights, principals, you want to review for the board, some of the contact that you have with parents, some of the activities that are sponsored in the buildings?
As far as having parent nights specifically for new curriculum and assessments, as I said, we've been fully implemented for a couple of years, so we didn't focus on that. But as you know, we do have a whole variety of things for parents. We have back-to-school night. We have then an open house where parents can see their students' work. We do parent-teacher conferences on the in-service day in December and the weeks before and after that. So every parent has a chance to meet with their child's teacher. In addition, there are special parent nights for things like convention. Next week is the book fair and an art show school-wide, that kind of thing. So those are some of the things that we do typically and every year. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm thinking about the role of the parent as educator or in the education of their child. And one of those roles is to be the homework tutor in the evening, and it's come up with helping with math since they invented new math. Well, we're on another generation of new math now with everyday math, you could argue, and I'm wondering if we're providing enough opportunity, or if there's any sort of community or parent need for how do I help my child with math when it looks a whole lot different than it did for me.
We actually have a everyday math parent handbook, and we did have a night last year for any parents who are interested in coming to find out more about that. And we still have the handbook available if parents need it. By now, the students are in their, not the youngest, obviously, but most students are in their third, fourth, fifth year with everyday math. So they understand the concepts, and they do come back. One of the facets that was attractive about everyday math is the spiraling effect. So they're using some of the same foreign, if you will, strategies like lattice multiplication in fifth grade that they learned in second grade. So those things come back. I've had only one request for a parent handbook this year, so.
So in theory, the parent, if they've kept up with the homework since second grade.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
They should be doing the lattice multiplication.
Yeah, we're assuming that they all have had some experience with it.
Mr. Thompson, didn't they have, at the last PTO
Thank
meeting,
you.
I think it was a school psychologist
Yes.
presented about homework and how to
Yep.
help your students through the years.
Thank you. We've actually, as part of the school improvement plan again for this year, we had a goal of having 4 or 5 parent presentations at the PTA meetings. Our reading specialist has given 2, and last meeting the school psychologist gave a presentation. So we've had 3 of those, and there was another one planned from the speech and language pathologist, I believe, for a future meeting.
Mm-hmm. Linda, did you have
Yeah, just to
something?
add on to what Cliff was saying, because I too have heard from parents that, boy, I don't know how, I can't help my kids with their math homework anymore
Okay.
because I can't. I think that maybe a little more outreach needs to happen at the elementary level for this, for the new everyday math program. Maybe in, in terms of setting up another parent night for training or whatever. And, and if it's something, that maybe we need to work into, or you'll have to work into the budget in later years to allow for, extra monies for training for parents
Yeah,
too. It may be worthwhile.
Thank you.
Maybe there's a way you can send a question out in one of the
Yeah.
newsletters going home that just says if people are interested to let us know. That way we know, because I know that I just had a conversation with someone yesterday from a different town who said that they were having trouble with everyday math, and she had a 4th grader and it was confusing, but when they had an everyday parent night, 4 parents showed up. So it has to be, I think, a need that the parents are, and then also maybe even turning it into some kind of a social thing where you have some of the kids set up the games that they play and let the parents play with them so they can understand a little bit more of the hands-on.
What's good with communicating with students, with parents at the elementary level is they still clean out backpacks. So, if you send home a flyer saying we'd like to, we'd like to offer this to parents, sign up, fill out this form, send it in with your child. You can collect them and see what kind of interest you have. You don't set it up until you know you have interest. But I think reaching out would be a good
If I
idea.
could just add, when they do their everyday math homework, there is a sheet that goes home in the homework that has modeling of the particular concept, and the answers are there as well. So sometimes that part is there, and there are also things on the elementary school website for everyday math parents. There's a site they can go to as well. But I do agree that a parent night is a great opportunity for parents to see it in action. But the handbook has been a great way for parents to be able to connect to it and just see modeling. Some of the vocabulary is overwhelming. There's probably 100 words there. So having that vocabulary at least explained, and there's a model in the handbook that explains when they say it, what it looks like, as opposed to, just a word they throw out at the dinner table.
And maybe there's a way to involve parents with the teachers to do something like that, where you could have the teachers coach some of the parents so they could get involved too, and maybe more of that onus on the parents to help each other, and then maybe it doesn't feel so overwhelming for them.
Good feedback. Thank you.
SAU 16 has had everyday math since it began, I guess, for 8-10 years. Wonder how they deal with the parents in terms of homework is concerned.
I don't know the answer
Probably
to
could
that.
check with one of the schools,
Yeah.
Brentwood, or see what they do.
All right. Thank you.
Chris?
At the high school, we have, in the fall, we have open house for all parents to come, 6 through 12. And then we do grade specific. We'll do SAT preparation for those juniors. We'll also do junior nights so that they start learning about the possibilities for scholarships and requirements into colleges. So that's set up through guidance. We'll do a 5th grade parent night for parents whose students are going into 6th grade as a transitional. We do an 8th grade parent night for those parents so that they know what their 8th graders will be expected of them as they go into 9th grade. So those are the majority of the parent nights we have, very, very focused for specific grade levels and changes that will affect the student and the parent.
Very good.
One of the other parent nights sort of is for the different sports. There's always parent
There is.
information nights for every season.
And that's for every season, yep, they
Yeah.
do have that. One other parent night that is coming up that I do want to address is part of the coalition that we work with Epping, the at-risk students. We have a late-act counselor provided to us free of cost through Children and Family Services out of Manchester. So we have a late-act every Thursday for about 4 hours working with our students. She and her boss through Children and Family Services are going to put on the 23rd of April a parent informational night about, at-risk behaviors your kids might be exhibiting and why. Is it related to drugs? Is it related to alcohol? Is it related to peer influences? So it's something that we really, through the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, this came out as something that we needed to do and address, and they'll be working on that focus. So it will be a pizza and parent presentation is how they will do it. So that I believe that will be the 23rd. We'll put flyers out, but I just wanted to recognize that as well on TV. So we'll put that out, and that's grades 6 through 12.
Very good. Very good.
The other thing I want to say too is I know that Tom every year for parents of seniors has many different activities or meetings and things, presentations for parents of seniors. So, and that's every year. So
That is every
thank
year,
you for doing that.
Debbie, Dave, is there anything you'd like to add? And there's no intent to exclude you from this conversation. Is there any points that you want to share, or are we okay? David?
I think it's pretty well covered.
All right, good. Debbie, how about you?
I think they've all done a great job.
Yeah. And that's the discussion, and kudos to all of you. As we look at this document, I'm pleased to see, and it's not always the case, that, dust has not been gathering on this, and it has been a conscious effort to keep this in mind and revisit these goals and objectives. And as we approach this in August, we tried to cull down some of these goals to something that was realistic in terms of attainment. Otherwise, it's self-defeating. It's discouraging. We acknowledge that it is a living document, subject to revision and should be, and continued refinement. And to stay away from a layering of narrative for the sake of volume and concentrate on those things that really do make a difference for children. So I thank you personally. Board.
Thank you all.
Indeed, it's been a great opportunity, and I know it's taken a bit of time, but I think it's been very valuable to get a sense of where we are on these things. Yeah.
I have one question I'd like to ask Scott. We've talked about a lot of different programs and what the children need and so forth. Scott, we haven't mentioned anything about the enrichment program.
About the what?
Enrichment program that we've had.
Well, I mentioned it earlier in connection to the question about what do we do for the students who are very high achievers at their grade level. Yeah,
Tier
and
4, right?
that's right.
All right.
Yeah. So that is a longstanding program at the elementary school that is continuing. And just to review, Mrs. Rossi has pull-out groups for students who show outstanding promise in math and in writing and in reading, thank you. And in addition, she goes to every classroom and does what we used to call higher order thinking kind of activities with all the students, so they all see her once every other week. Right. It takes her that long to get to the 25 classrooms. Yeah. So.
And we do have a wonderful enrichment program that's conducted by Nancy Miller in phys ed, in our fine arts program, the opportunity for students to express their giftedness other than by pen and pencil. So the range of offerings that are made available to students is appreciated, and I hope we can continue to do that.
Yes, very much so.
Also, I think, Mr. Thompson, maybe there was something that came out at the beginning of the school year that did a nice job. It had a layout of what the enrichment opportunities were. And
yes.
Described. Maybe that might be something that
yes.
You have a copy to check, because I know I saved mine. It's
sure.
It's really clear as to what the enrichment opportunities are.
We had heard from some parents that when they cleaned out the backpacks, they didn't find everything. So we wanted to put a listing of all of the extracurricular activities that are offered throughout the year into a single brochure. So each of the individual advisors wrote it up, we published it, and we sent it home at the start of the school year, which we'll do again next year. So we offer quite a bit.
Boy, this enrichment program would be nice to use with that outside laboratory we're trying to get these kids who really are interested in get that little creativity thinking involved in that wetland area or wherever.
Yes.
Right. And contrary to some public concern, we will not be launching rockets in the backyard of the school building as well.
Can I say, not at the elementary school for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, yeah.
Other questions for any other of the team members?
I just have one thing. It would be, one of the actions on this last goal for communicating with the community is just about using the website to maybe publish more of the paperwork that comes out, but also to highlight some of the positive student accomplishments going on, whether, I know it takes a lot of effort to get names and permission, but even just the nice newsletter that comes out from the students. I know it might have their last names, but we could somehow take it off, or just getting that information out there for people to celebrate all the positive things that are going on in the schools, because sometimes the website can be very administrative and everything's listed, but there's not that human touch to the website. I mean, I don't know who's responsible for managing the website, but that might be something we look into too, because a lot of people are turning to that website, and I don't know if all the information we do have is getting out there for everybody to look at.
That's a good point. Lest you think I'm going to fabricate an answer here, I did have that conversation with Deb Boatwright. We talked about that this week, and Deb has many ideas with regard to the website and updates, a more user-friendly website that needs to be made available. And I'm going to the next technology committee meeting where that very topic will be addressed on the agenda.
I mean, it might even be just something as simple as that new website that Mrs. Stowe found, that there'd be just a link on there that attaches to what she's doing, because it is a great opportunity for the children, and just to put that extra step in there just links more people to that opportunity.
Very good. Well, I would ask that the two principals remain. Others, I know, long day. And not that it isn't a long day for you as well, but we will make it longer. So if you could hold, I'd appreciate it.
Chet, did you have the last comment?
I'd like to thank the administrative people for their presentation and answering the questions I had given you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Our council rep, Jim Bergeron, is not here this evening, unfortunately, so we will not have a report in that regard.
Okay.
And so you're next.
Well,
Not that
thank
you haven't
you.
been talking all evening.
Yeah,
but,
thank you. Thank you. I do have a couple items, but I see we have a couple of guests as well. And I know, and forgive me, the name escapes me, but you would approach me and you talked to Mr. Chase, I believe, at least someone did, with regard to a project and a concern for the environment. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to go through a couple things and then ask that you give an overview and that the board chair add that to our agenda under committee reports.
Okay.
So
Glad
we'll
to
get to
do
you. And
so.
thanks for being so patient, and I haven't been ignoring you in any way. I mentioned briefly, and this is a brief overview. I did attend the commissioners' conference, and that was a week ago. The primary topic of the conference was stimulus monies, how they would be dispersed, what would be dispersed. From what we heard, there is nothing in terms of dollar amounts cast in stone at this point. There's been emails going back and forth with regards to what we could expect under Title I and what we could expect under IDEA, and the commissioner said, there will be monies forthcoming, but don't hang your hat on the particular amounts that you've seen up to this point. The long and short, the philosophy in Washington is, educators, all we've heard is we can guarantee that students' performance will increase, just give us the money. So the philosophy is now, here's the money. Now you've got to produce. If we apply, and you must apply for stimulus money, these are not blanket entitlements. There's a federal publication, multi-page publication, that I printed off and distributed to the A-team. What would be eligible for funding, and a guideline as to what you have to include. So it has to be a tight proposal that will be reviewed. And the accountability in terms of fulfillment of that proposal is going to be stringent, along with accountability for dollars. Supplanting will not be tolerated. In essence, we're going to have to account separately and keep those monies separate from operational funds. The auditors in this country have thanked God for this windfall. Public accounting firms are hiring left and right. So there is stimulus there at that level. So the word is stay tuned. They want to disperse this rapidly. I know in some of your business groups, they're talking about getting this out within the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we will see that. Now we have a template, and we are discussing, we've gone through what that criteria in a broad way will be, and specifically what you have to include in proposals and what's eligible for funding. What to caution you against, don't hire staff. There is a cliff that appears in a couple of years. This is a 2-year cycle, and you drop off. So if you've added to your fixed costs, but you better be ready to mainstream, or there's going to be disappointment for those individuals that you brought in. Another item, and I did allude to this earlier, was a couple board members, and Chet is a member of the planning board. We did attend the planning board to talk about the easement, which we refer to as, the Durrell Woods area for property in back of the elementary school. And we continue, as a matter of fact, there is a continuance. Our attorneys for the school district and the town are involved in an exchange of emails as to what's necessary to expedite this process and how much depth do we have to go into. There's some disagreement as to whether or not it's an issue that we even need to bring before the planning board. But in the spirit of transparency and working with citizens, you decided as a board, and rightfully so, to give ample opportunity for public review. This Saturday at 9 a.m., and again, as many of you that can participate would be appreciated, there's another walk through the land in question in back of the elementary school. Citizens, the planning board wants to attend, and so they have a visual up close, not just on renderings by a surveying firm, and the relative positioning of future plans. Chet, have I missed anything that involved the planning board?
No, I think you're pretty much right on in terms of what we want to do, yeah. We could add a lot, but I don't want to speculate.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And that's what I have for the superintendent's report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Larson, thank you for your patience.
No problem. It's been very informative being here. So.
Good. It is a lesson, isn't it?
It's been good.
So you'll report back to the student body as Sean will as well, right?
Here, and I have some things that you guys can look at. I only have a few copies.
That's right.
It's just about
We'll
this
share.
sustainable and educating of.
Thank you.
Oh,
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
And a lot of what I've heard tonight has really encouraged me in thinking that there's such openness and cooperation already amongst the school and the rest of the state and the administrators that are running it. And so what I do think is needed in your goals, I guess, is some kind of focus on the sustainable future that is necessary in our current global condition. And so this book that, The Natural Step for Communities, it's about how cities and towns can change to sustainable practices. And it's something that's begun being implemented here in the Seacoast and first in Portsmouth, but has also already been entirely successful in all of Sweden when a lot of their communities were failing and needed to begin relying on themselves and being more self-sufficient. And so here on the sheet, it says that in a sustainable society, nature is not subject to systematically increasing concentrations of substances extracted from Earth's crust, concentrations of substances produced by society, degradation by physical means, and in that society, people are not subject to conditions that are systematically undermine their capacity to meet their needs. And so then below that, since that's kind of wordy, I have what that means to me is that you should extract resources from Earth's crust only as fast as they can be reabsorbed, create only substances that can be broken down, harvest from nature at a rate that can be regenerated, and equitable distribution of resources. And so what it lays out is kind of a compass for change and a way of moving towards being more sustainable and improving the relationship you have with your environment and also with your community and people every day. And so these conditions, they can be applied, like what I've been hearing from you guys is that, like, first of all, in building a new school and a learning environment, these are very important to consider. Using sustainable materials, but also engaging students in their relationship with nature and the environment and the world around you, and being better educated on that level. And also, I don't know, projects that you guys have going on, like, I don't know what you're trying to improve at the public library, but I think the possibility of bringing students over to their community and maybe learning about sustainability or the environment or like current issues is something that can happen at a very early age. These are like core science principles that should be understood by young elementary students. And so I think there's a lot of possibility, and there are workshops available for staff to learn and implement it in their curriculum, and can basically just be applied in every area of a municipality, not just in a school system.
Very good. Now, you are an engineering student at Wentworth?
I'm an architecture student at Wentworth Institute
yes,
of Technology
third-year student?
in Boston.
Yeah, very good. And it's interesting, you mentioned this too, and there's been discussion at the board level. We had a presentation by Clay Mitchell and some energy-saving measures that we could undertake at the elementary building not too long ago. And we're also discussing now and continue to discuss, and maybe Mr. Chase can outline some of that, some potential with environmental-friendly energy-generating sources, such as panels. Cliff?
Well, we're in the initial discussions, really kind of on an exploratory level with looking at the heating plant at the elementary school, which is 20 years old, which is by definition the end of its design life. So at this point, we need to start wondering, okay, what are we going to do to replace those boilers, which are very large and are relied upon from everything from heating the building on the coldest day of the year to providing hot water for hand washing and cleaning in the summertime. That's a little bit of an overkill to fire up such a boiler to, for example, to wash your hands in warm water. So we're looking at a way to essentially have a much more energy efficient system, which includes perhaps a photovoltaic array to to augment the a probably propane or potentially a biomass-fired, much smaller and staged system that has advanced controls that can modulate the system so that you're not running a huge.
Yeah,
as
it
I
all
described.
makes a lot of sense. The whole sustainable approach to it is just to make sense in use of energy, and so yeah, there's potential in that, and then also investigation of like I think hydroelectrics in the water in the rivers that are so fluent all over the seacoast area, and I don't know how much wind turbines have been investigated in this area, but I know Kittery just tried putting one up, but they're not getting the exact input that or output that they were hoping to achieve.
Yeah, well, there's a wonderful example in Mars Hills, Maine, where there is what they call a windmill or a turbine farm. And certainly those that are the beneficiaries of that electrical generation are thankful they're there. The point that you raised, and I think is something we need to pay attention to as we pursue some of these things, and through that planning and implementation process, it really is a great active learning experience for students in those buildings.
Yeah.
You know, where they're involved, to see the benefits and to integrate that, especially in the science curriculum and mathematics curriculum.
Yeah, the direct correlation is in the environment all the time, and so it's always like gives potential for learning, and it can be a rich experience for every single age level. So, and also with the stimulus package, they're looking to see improvements on energy and sustainability, and so the more prepared you are for that, and the more systematic you said you need to be very well prepared or organized in the presentation of your funds. I think the natural step offers just the great possibility, especially for Newmarket with the strong community and cooperation already in place.
Now, I know you have some thoughts about working with students in the buildings. You were going to talk to Mr. Andruski as well, but what are some of the initiatives that you plan to discuss in terms of working with students while they're in their daily schedules?
Well, it just begins with learning about it and reading this book, because it covers every level of a municipality and what it takes to change the current conditions to something sustainable and environmental. And so the beginning step is just study circles and educating yourself about sustainable initiatives that have already happened. There are case studies in this book from Sweden and then also all over the world and also North America. And then also the study circles and begin to take like action plans and like talk about what in your community is actually possible. And so action begins just out of the study circles right away. And yeah, so.
Thank you for coming and bringing this important point up. I think I recall last year, right around Earth Day, there was some kind of a green...
The sustainability fair?
Yeah. I think Linda Albright was involved, and I can't remember somebody else.
Noelle Josco.
Okay, I didn't know if you were aware of
Who
that.
I've been working with. She's the one who first got me involved in this. I'm on home for a semester of co-op just this semester, and so I've gotten myself at the high school working in the wood shop just as experience, and then I've just to fill my time gotten involved in the sustainability because it's something that I think is
So
really
you're
valuable.
Be knowledgeable about what that's about then, and getting involved in that too. That might be a good way to get some more people.
I'd just like to say that the Wentworth School was always one of my favorites. And when I ran the math department at Exeter, I was always invited over for dinners.
Right?
Oh, yes, and I got to tour the facility. It's absolutely very, very challenging.
they're like Newmarket, always trying to improve themselves. And
The practicality of the science and the mathematics is just outstanding. But the question is, in regards to the energy situation, in other words, take it out, put it back with no change. I understand that, but how are we going to do this? Because this is actually international we're talking about.
Yeah.
But what about international finance in regards to this? You people talking about that or studying about that at the Institute?
financing?
Yes, the international financing of it all. Like they're meeting now,
Yeah, I know
gotta
about
have
the
a balance
G20s.
somewhere.
Yeah, and I was just actually watching the news today about the G20 all going on in London, I think,
Yeah.
and it sounds like they're discussing global cooperation with helping each other with their economies, but I don't think, it didn't sound like they were going to be getting the exact results that they wanted, or like such a large input from everybody. And so essentially it is an international movement, but it comes from the grassroots and it starts in the community, and it requires the people here taking it upon themselves to learn it and start implementing it themselves. And
Has the institution itself done any talk about this, or is there courses offered in international financing?
are you talking about just Wentworth?
Yes.
No, Wentworth isn't really involved in this. I first learned about sustainable design and whatnot in my architecture classes, and that's what's first gotten me interested in it, and also urban planning classes that I've taken. But no, it's not a Wentworth organized program.
So it'd be more or less like a business college situation possibly, or?
For me personally, this is just what I'm filling my semester with.
Yeah, personal interest,
Yeah,
right?
personally, yeah.
Mhm.
I just wanted to throw the question out there, because when you mentioned Wentworth, wow, I saw right after that, what a great school.
Yeah, this is my semester off from Wentworth.
Good, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Our Newmarket students go to great schools.
Yes, we do.
One point Chet, you bring up the financing piece as an example, and it isn't a purely zero emission, et cetera, energy proposal that we're thinking about with the elementary school, but it is, not only is it a good idea, but it's also less expensive. A good idea for
extremely
sustainability
much
reasons,
better
but
just
it's
in the long term.
much less expensive financially.
There's a quote on here under one of the links that I gave you. It says that what most schools spend more on energy than on supplies, and if that's something we can change, it would be a huge improvement, huge possibility.
And it's good for the local taxpayer as well as for the whole system.
The environment,
right.
Yeah, people in general.
And I think with your concern, we're going to be, with people like you, with that thought process you have and what you research, I think stuff like this is going to change. We get your generation to do that work too. Yeah.
So are you working with other community groups? Are you trying to form a coalition of groups? Aside from readings and knowledge, what's your plan to bring this to the fore in terms of a community consciousness?
Well, I'm currently involved in a Durham study circle, and that's members of communities from, Northwood and Newmarket and Durham, and this has also come about from Portsmouth, and the Piscataqua Sustainability Initiative is what has been encouraging this movement since 2005, and that ranges through 68 towns of the Piscataqua River watershed, and that's southern Maine and the seacoast. And so, and I've also started 2 study circles, but that's just close friends and family and a few, and now we've gotten a few teachers from the high school to participate on a Wednesday night study circle.
Very good. Very good.
Excellent.
Questions for Ms. Lish?
thanks so much for taking the time to
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,
come and
thank you.
present to us.
Yep.
Well, I was glad to sit through all of the goals and everything that you guys are already doing.
Ah,
It's
good.
very
Well,
informative.
thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay. Sean, you have a student report for us.
I do have a few things. Spring has arrived, and with that has come the beginning of spring sports season at the junior high and high school. The baseball and softball programs in the junior high and the high school are in full swing. Practices began, I believe, last week. So we're excited to have that come upon us. The senior class, as I mentioned at the last meeting, we had a penny sale, which is an annual fundraiser that we've done for the last 3 years. That was this past weekend. Last year we raised over $2,000, and we were able to reach that milestone again this year.
Good.
What's the good news from that is that that means that fundraising for the senior class for graduation is basically complete. We have a handful of seniors that have still yet to pay class dues, which we're trying to get those as soon as we can. It looks like barring any unforeseen gargantuan graduation-related costs, it looks like all the graduation-related payments can be covered, and we should have at least about $1,000 put in a savings account after we graduate to be put towards our 10-year class reunion. So we're in very good financial shape, which you can just tell the general mood of the senior class once we found this out. It's very calm and relaxed now, and now we can focus on actually getting out of here and moving on.
Studying for finals, etc.
Yes.
Yeah, studying for finals is the #1 priority right now. Actually, we are trying to add another event to Senior Week. Typically, Senior Week consists of there'll be a senior banquet. The night before graduation, there'll be awards night. There's a senior outing, and then graduation, obviously. One of the common complaints about the awards night is that a lot of people seem to think it runs too long. So we are in the process of planning, and it looks like it's going to happen. The specifics still have to be hashed out, but we are going to add a parent appreciation night, which will be during Senior Week. It looks like it'll be the Monday of that Senior Week. And it'll basically just be kind of a light gathering. Desserts will be served. Nothing too fancy. The senior slideshow will take place there. We're trying to get exactly 2009 photos in the slideshow. We're still collecting photos. So that'll take place, and it looks like we might split up the awards night so that awards from teachers, things of that nature can take place at the parent appreciation night, and then scholarships and other more formal awards can be presented at the actual awards night proper. So we're still planning out the details, but it looks like we'll be adding that event to Senior Week. The Senior High Career Fair, which is an annual fair put on by the School of Career Department, will be next Wednesday. That's April 8th. It's actually, Career Fair is kind of an understatement. There's opportunities to explore future careers. There's also local schools and adult education schools and college, and Great Bay Community College I think is there. I think UNH might be there as well. City Year, which is another program that you can do after high school. So it's more than just career opportunities. It's basically a great way to explore all sorts of different kinds of opportunities for post-secondary education. So that is next week, and it's always popular with the students. The School of Career Department is actually advertising some great, we have a great string of job shadows in the upcoming weeks. I was actually supposed to go to WMUR today. Unfortunately, due to scheduling problems with WMUR, that was canceled, but regardless, that kind of emphasizes that we have some great connections. We have some upcoming job shadows. Students are going to visit Thundering Sky Recording Studio, which is a great recording studio up in South Berwick. I've actually had the opportunity to record there myself, and it's very impressive. There's also going to be students that will be interviewing with a sports writer who lives in Durham. Some students are going to be going to the Rockingham County Superior Court to learn about criminal justice and law. So those are kind of larger job shadows that will be taking place over the coming next few weeks or so. The Great Bay Half Marathon is this Sunday, and the high school will have a strong presence there. The organizers of the half marathon for the last year or two have actually worked with students taking advanced placement tests, which are in May. The advanced placement tests are, I think, I just paid for one last week. It was like $86. They aren't cheap. Many students are taking 2, 3, 4 of these tests. So the organizers of the half marathon allow students taking advanced placement tests to work at the half marathon, and in exchange they'll get money credited towards them to help lower the costs of those AP testing. So I think I'm going to jump on that opportunity, and several other students will as well. Also, the half marathon, at different spots along the course, there's different
Water stops.
And also, so students usually volunteer those. I'm trying to think of it. Performances, entertainers, and the junior senior high school band will be one of those this year. I think they're actually playing at the start of the race, so they're very excited about that. They've been preparing for that. Project Search, which is I believe I've discussed it before. It's a group. There's 20 seniors from Newmarket that participate in it. It's basically a seminar style program with juniors and seniors from about 10 or 12 different schools in the Seacoast area. That ends this month, but the seniors at Newmarket would like to thank Mr. Fabiano, the chemistry teacher, who actually organized this year, oversaw the entire search program, not just Newmarket itself, but he actually coordinated it, got some great speakers, just really put a lot of effort into it, and we really appreciate that, and we'd like to thank him for that. And it's great that he did that. Well, he actually got a really cool one. We'll be wrapping it up next week, and there's a professor at UNH that's kind of a conspiracy theorist, and that'll be our last seminar. We'll be learning about conspiracy theories, and he just warned me today that he signed up some more people with opposing viewpoints to speak at that, so it's going to be a very intense seminar, but nobody but Mr. Fabiano would be able to pull that off, so that's great. Drama Club, I mentioned it at the last meeting, but they have been doing several hour-long practices for the last each day this week. Their play, I couldn't think of the word.
Right.
Their play is this weekend. It's called Murder Can Be Habit Forming. They've been working very hard on it over the last several months. That'll be tomorrow night
7 o'clock.
at 7, and Saturday they'll be doing a 2 p.m. matinee and a 7 o'clock. Originally they were going to do a matinee Sunday instead of Saturday, but because of the half marathon, it's been rescheduled. So just to put that out there, I know you all got free tickets at the last meeting, so don't go to the Sunday show because they won't be doing it. And finally, I don't think I've missed anything else. Miss King, who was up until last year an English teacher at the high school, and actually keeps in close touch with many students and teachers, still has a strong presence at Newmarket, is running the Boston Marathon. Some of you that are familiar with her may know that her brother fought a long battle with cancer for a long time. Unfortunately, he passed away last April, but she will be running in his honor. She's running to raise money for Children's Hospital in Boston, and the High School National Honor Society is actually seeking donations for her cause, and anybody that's interested can donate, drop off donations in the main office. So that is the National Honor Society's priority at this point in time. And I believe that's all I have.
Good. Well, thank you, Sean. It's quite a lot going on. Exciting times. Okay. Sue, do you have a budget update for us?
I do. And I apologize, I usually email that to you, and I neglected to do that, but I will get that out to you tomorrow with the detail. But this is just the cover sheet that shows you my projections for June 30th. As you can see, we're still have a positive balance, so. winding down the year.
So without any unforeseen things happening, we're in the black.
We're in the black. And probably be coming back to you next month with some potential uses for some of those funds, if you're still in agreement with that.
And this projected balance does not include
Elevator funds,
the
no.
elevator fund.
No.
Right. It's important we continue to say that.
Correct.
The, can you speak to where that balance comes from? I'm anticipating your answer is going to be unanticipated revenues to a significant extent?
No, that does not include unanticipated revenues. That is actually the result of several areas, mostly from the special ed area, because we have a number of students that are not placed out of district. We try to keep them in district, so we've had kept the number of them in the district. Several of them moved out of the district, and staff changes this year. We had a number of turnovers in the high school, and we had some savings there, so that's most of it.
Okay. Great, thank you.
And the
And
next
the-
item is the trust fund, which you can see on that sheet. I actually need the authority of the board, since you are the agents of that trust fund, to approve the transfer of those funds out of the trust funds for the general fund expenditures that you approved during the budget process. And did I include that in your packet? I believe you have the breakdown on that. Any questions on those items? I have a question.
Sure.
Are these, I'm looking at the column that says fund balance addition.
Mm-hmm.
Are these from the prior year, or are they from this year?
No, that's the prior year. And actually, the audit was just completed. I have the draft, and it's finalized, so those are the numbers.
Okay, so
So that is-
the question that stood out for me was because I think this year we just had repairs and maintenance and special ed, but they had
Right.
repairs, maintenance, special ed, and technology, so I assumed it was from the last.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
You're always a year behind.
Right, it must be very confusing to
It,
to
yes,
you.
it does.
Always in 3
There's
years.
always numbers
Always doing
going
3
back.
years at a
Really,
time,
there is.
correct, that's true. Any questions on that?
Did
or-
you say, did you just say you need,
She's seeking a motion.
I need a motion to approve the transfer of those funds. Any questions on them, or?
I'll make a motion to transfer the monies in the trust, to the trust funds?
They're expendable trust funds. To approve the withdrawal of funds. Withdrawing from the expendable trust funds
And putting where?
into the general fund.
Okay, I'll make a motion for that.
I'll second
Got that,
that.
Erica?
You'll make it sound a little nicer, though, right?
What she
Okay.
said.
So I think I heard, Linda, did you just
Yes,
second
I
that?
seconded that.
Okay, is there any discussion on that? So just in review, maybe for clarity, we, through our budgeting process, decided that there were some items in the past that we would draw from these funds, and this needs to happen to formalize the execution of moving the money.
Correct.
As we are the trustees of those funds.
You are the agents of those
Sorry,
funds.
the agents.
The trustee of the trust funds holds those funds in a separate account, so he will transfer them over to us. I'm not sure if we do that electronically, or he cuts us a check, basically, is how that works.
Mhm. Okay. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. And the school warrant,
That
Which
is
is-
the warrant for elections.
which is to choose a moderator for the coming year, to choose a clerk as well for the coming year, 2 members for the school board for 3 years, and a treasurer for the ensuing year. So, do we need to make a motion on this? It just needs to be signed?
Just need to sign it.
Okay.
Just need to sign it, so.
It has to be one copy, Sue, one
Yeah.
copy signed by all.
Yes. I think it should be in the folder.
And I have
the
it here,
original.
yes. So, that'll be coming around. Okay, Manifests.
I'll make a motion that we approve the manifest presented in the amount of $358,202.79.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. The, next on the agenda is a discussion for the certified staff nominations for the next year.
Mr. Chairman, if we could reverse or change that order, we have in your packet, the spring coaches have also provided a brief biography for you. Wonder if we could do those and then consider our staff nominations.
I would, I guess, like to just go one more step and perhaps briefly review the calendar so that when
Yep.
we can give people the opportunity before they tune out to be aware of the schedule. Yes, we're going to do that presently, which is the spring coaches.
Yep.
So we have a list of coaches of which I have lost. Thank you. They are for JV baseball, Evan Bender, junior high school softball, Christine Jordan, and varsity track, Karen Blackwood, have been presented by the athletic director in nomination for our spring season for those teams. So I would entertain a motion to accept those nominations.
Make a motion we approve the nominations of the coaches listed previously.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Just to comment that it's nice to see alumni returning to work in the various programs.
It
It's
is.
it's a nice bit of continuity and good spirit.
Absolutely, well said. Further comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Good.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
So, and if we can quickly review the calendar. Sean, you mentioned the half marathon on Sunday. In connection with that, on Saturday, open to the public in the high school gym, I believe, is a health expo, which there will be several vendors there, as well as folks from, I believe, Exeter Hospital, with various resources available. So that's again open to the public and part of that event. Mark, we discussed a couple times in various contexts well, actually, I guess in one context, the joint meeting scheduled with the council in the form of a tour of our school buildings. Have we confirmed, has that date been confirmed with the town administration, do you know?
Jim was going to do that. I haven't
Okay.
heard, but I will follow up on that.
But as it stands, a week from tonight, meeting at the elementary school, as I recall, 7 p.m.
Scott,
Yep.
you do know.
Let's see, that's all I have.
And then the 4th, this Saturday, we have the walkthrough again of the Durrell
Yes,
Woods.
thank you. At 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
And that is meeting at the elementary, behind the elementary school, do you know, or?
We'll meet behind, that's what we said at the planning board, yes.
So that's officially a planning board function
Yeah.
that
The planning
all the
board
community
has
is
a-
welcome to.
Yeah, the planning board will have another walk before that, so, you know,
Before that,
yeah, 7:30 in the morning.
I would just note, should we post this as a work session?
Yeah.
Just if we have a quorum present.
Well, I won't be able to be there, so I don't know who else.
Three
It,
people, if 3 of us are there.
well, it'll be a posted meeting by the, I was
Planning
assuming
board.
the
It's
planning board
board's
would
meeting.
post that.
It's their meeting.
That's their meeting.
Now, Chuck, maybe you can give me some clarification on this. The last I knew, when we were there at the planning board, it was 9. So did discussion ensue after that, that the planning board would go prior to the walkthrough with us?
Oh, no, it's not gonna go, the walk is another site review we have to do.
So it's not
Not-
Durrell?
yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna do that one, then come back to Durrell.
Got it.
That's
Got it.
I see.
Got it.
So if,
So I'm just saying, it may be half an hour, 15 minutes later, or whatever.
Okay.
Just,
so if
Yeah,
no one's
okay.
there,
Yeah.
stand by.
Don't leave, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't leave.
got it.
Okay. Okay, and the closing date for people interested in either the 2 school board openings
Is tomorrow,
is tomorrow at 5 p.m.
5
in
p.m.
the district office.
Correct.
And for the budget committee and town council seats, it is the same deadline, but that is in the town
Correct.
clerk's office.
Correct.
Any other items of note?
Just remind the board that I will most likely miss the next meeting and perhaps the subsequent meeting as well.
Okay, thank you for that reminder, Forrest. Okay, and so then back to certified staff nominations. Mark, would you like to speak to that?
Yes. You have been sent a list, and I did distribute hard copy. You were sent via email a list of candidates for continuance in teaching positions and administrative positions, and also I want to discuss with you retirements as well. So what I will seek is approval of the list, but I ask if there is a need for a non-public session to review the list, particularly what was in the list. So do you have that need? Good, all right.
Okay,
So we need non-public.
so I would entertain a motion to go into non-public session in accordance with RSA 91A:3, Roman numeral 2, section C.
so moved.
Thank you,
I'll
Chad.
second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we take a moment.
Yeah.